It begins with a sound, a deep, angry groan from the heart of the mountain, a noise that does not belong. Then, a terrifying crack echoes through the tunnels. For 33 men working deep inside the San Jose mine, the world turns to thunder and dust. A single block of stone, a giant piece of rock twice the size of the biggest skyscraper, has just broken free. It falls with unimaginable power, sealing the mine shut. The lights flicker and die, plunging the men into a thick, choking blackness. They are trapped more than 2,000 feet under the ground. These were not superheroes. They were fathers, sons, and brothers, men who went into the dark so their families could live in the light. Men like Mario Sepulveda, always ready with a joke to make the others laugh. And men like Luis Urzua, the shift foreman, a quiet and steady leader who felt the weight of every man on his shoulders. They worked in the San Jose mine in Chile, a place known for being old and unsafe. But it was a job. Each morning, they said goodbye to their loved ones and traveled down into the belly of the earth, a journey into darkness they hoped to return from every night. In the first few hours, there is a tiny flicker of hope, the escape route, a long ladder that is supposed to go all the way to the surface through a special tunnel called a ventilation shaft. The men rush towards it, their helmet lamps cutting through the thick, swirling dust, but their hope dies in the beam of their lights. They climb and climb, only to find their path blocked by a solid wall of rock. The company that owned the mine had never finished building the ladder. The one way out was not a way out at all. They were truly alone. The men gather in a small safety room called the refuge. They look for food, for anything to keep them alive. The truth is horrifying. For 33 grown men, there is only enough food for 2 days. A few cans of fish, some crackers, and a little bit of milk. Panic could have torn them apart. Instead, their leader, Luis Urzua, brings them together. He decides they will share everything. Each man will get 1 small spoonful of tuna and half a cookie, but only every other day. This hard rule was their only chance to survive. The days begin to blur into one long, terrible night. The heat is crushing, over 90 degrees, and the air is thick and wet, making it hard to breathe. Their bodies grow weak from hunger, and the darkness never ends. But the real battle is happening inside their minds. Some men begin to give up hope, sinking into a quiet sadness. Others become angry, yelling in the dark. They are fighting against starvation, but they are also fighting against fear and despair. They had to choose to live every single minute of every single day. To fight the endless dark, the men had to be clever. They found the big batteries inside a giant underground truck. Using these, they could power their helmet lamps, but only for a little while each day. They had to save the power. They were creating light in a world that had none. They also made their small, dark space into a kind of home. They carefully mapped out their prison. They made one area for sleeping, another area far away for waste, and a place to gather. They even found a source of water, dripping down the rock walls. It was not clean, but it was life. This careful order was a way to fight the fear. While the men fought for their lives below, a new world was born on the surface. Their families, mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, refused to go home. They set up tents right at the gate of the mine. This small city of hope became known as Camp Hope. Here, above the buried men, life went on. The families cooked meals together, they prayed together, and they watched the giant machines that had arrived. These huge drills were their only hope. They were giant metal fingers trying to reach deep into the earth to find their loved ones. Every day, the families would watch and wait. The hope of the families was a powerful thing. It pushed the rescue workers to keep going, even when it seemed impossible. The whole world started to watch, sending prayers and good wishes to the small camp in the desert. The families held on to this hope like a tiny light in their own kind of darkness. Then, on the 17th day underground, something changed. It started as a feeling, a soft shaking in the rock. Then, a sound. It was very faint at first, a distant tapping. Some of the men thought they were dreaming, that their minds were playing tricks on them in the dark. But the sound grew. It became a clear, steady rhythm. Tap, tap, Tap. It was the sound of a drill bit, the special tool on the end of a drill, biting through the hard rock. It was getting closer. After 17 days of silence, it was the first sound from the outside world. It was the sound of hope. Being found was not the end of their struggle. It was the beginning of a new one. The rescuers could now talk to them through the small hole made by the drill. The news was both wonderful and terrible. They were safe, but they were not coming out soon. The rescuers explained that the first small hole was only for supplies. To get the men out, they had to drill a new hole, one wide enough for a person to fit through. This would take a very long time. They told the men to be patient. It could take months. So began the long wait. Through the small pipe, the men received everything they needed to survive. They got special food and clean water. They received medicine and letters from their families. They could even talk to them on a special phone. They were no longer alone in the dark, but they were still prisoners of the earth. The world watched. News of the trapped men spread across the globe, and a giant rescue effort began. Engineers and experts from many countries came together, all focused on one huge problem: how to pull 33 men through a tiny hole, from a place deeper than many of the tallest buildings in the world. The rescuers decided on a daring idea called Plan B. They would use a giant drill to make a new, wider hole, straight down through solid rock to the shelter. This hole had to be just big enough for one person at a time. It was a slow, careful race against time, a fight between powerful machines and the unmoving earth. The final key to their freedom was a special cage built just for this rescue. It was named the Phoenix, the Spanish word for phoenix. In old stories, the phoenix is a magical bird that is born again from ashes. This capsule was their symbol of a new beginning, a promise of rising from the darkness. The Phoenix pod was very narrow, no wider than a man's shoulders. The plan was to lower it down the long, dark rescue shaft. One by one, each miner would squeeze inside. The journey up would take about 20 minutes, a slow climb from the center of the earth back into the world of light, filled with a mix of fear and overwhelming hope. Finally, on day 69, the moment came. The first miner, Florencio Avalos, stepped into the capsule. The door closed, and the world held its breath as the pod began its slow, steady journey upward, pulling one man from the darkness and back to life. He stepped out into the cool night air of the desert. He had to wear special dark sunglasses to protect his eyes, which had not seen anything but dim light for more than 2 months. For the first time, he saw the stars in the sky. He felt a cool breeze on his face. And then, he hugged his son. One by one, all 33 men came out of the earth. The story of the 33 miners is more than just a great escape. It is a true and powerful lesson about the amazing strength that people have inside them, a strength that can shine brightest in the darkest of places. It shows us how making a plan and working together can bring order to a world of chaos and fear. It proves that hope is a light that can survive even in total darkness, deep under the ground, when all seems lost. Their journey celebrates the unbreakable will to live. They faced a situation that felt impossible, but they refused to give up on each other or on the families waiting for them. Their struggle led to important new rules for mining safety around the world, helping to protect others. In the end, these men were not just saved by powerful drills and a clever capsule. They were saved by their teamwork, their deep love for their families, and a simple, powerful belief that no matter what, they would one day feel the warmth of the sun again. The joy of being found was a bright light, but soon, the darkness felt heavier than before. Knowing rescue was coming, but not knowing when, was a new kind of pain. Weeks turned into a month, then another. Every day was the same. Wake up in the dark, eat in the dark, talk in the dark, and sleep in the dark. The only light came from their helmet lamps, small circles in a huge, black world. The problem for the rescuers was the rock itself. The mine was buried under more than 2,000 feet of stone, harder than concrete. They had to drill a new hole, one wide enough for a person to fit through. This was not like digging in dirt. It was a slow, careful job. and one mistake could cause another cave-in, ending all hope for good. Life changed around the small supply holes. Through these thin tubes, the men received special food, clean water, and medicine. Most important of all, they received letters from their families. These pieces of paper, covered in the handwriting of wives and children, were held and read over and over. They were proof that a world of sunshine and love still existed far above. To keep everyone safe and calm, the men needed a leader. Luis Urzua, the man in charge of their work shift, took on this role. He made rules. Everyone had a job. He created a schedule so their days had a pattern. They ate at the same time and tried to sleep at the same time. This order helped fight back the feeling that they were lost in a timeless void. Because of this strong leadership, the men stayed a team. They shared everything equally, from the small meals to the fresh socks sent from above. There was no fighting. They understood that their only chance of seeing the sun again was to work together, to be a single family, united against the crushing weight of the earth. Above ground, a new town had appeared. It was called Camp Hope. Tents and small shelters were everywhere, filled with the families of the trapped miners. They refused to leave, keeping a constant watch over the mine. They cooked together, prayed together, and held on to each other for strength, their own survival story playing out in the harsh desert sun. The story of the 33 men spread across the entire world. News reporters came from faraway countries, setting up cameras and sending reports day and night. People everywhere learned the miners' names and prayed for their safety. The rescue was no longer just a local problem. It had become a symbol of hope for all of humanity. Down below, the physical struggle was immense. The heat was suffocating, almost 100 degrees every moment of every day. The air was thick with moisture, making their clothes wet and their skins sore. Their bodies grew weaker, and sickness was a constant threat in the dirty, damp shelter. To keep their minds strong, the men became storytellers. They shared memories of their favorite foods, told funny jokes to make each other laugh, and sang songs that reminded them of home. They set aside a time each day to pray together, finding comfort in their shared faith and the belief that they were not alone in the darkness. Then, one day, a new sound started. It was a faint grinding, a vibration felt deep in the rock. It was the sound of the big rescue drill, the one they called Plan B, slowly chewing its way down to them. The sound grew a little louder each day. It was the sound of hope, a promise that the world above had not forgotten them and was fighting to bring them home.